Yeah. Okay, Lee. Is that all right, Amy? Ready to go?
Yep, we're ready to go.
Go ahead, Lee.
Tu tau mai e runga, tu tau mai he raro, tu tau mai he roto, tu tau mai he waho. Katawai, te Māori tū, te Māori ora. Kei te katoa, humie, huie, takie. Takie. Morning team.
Kia ora, Lee. Well done.
Well done.
Good on you. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa, kia ora tātou, no mai, haere mai. Welcome, everybody. Have we got anybody online at all, Amy? Or is it just us?
No, so you have Phil Clearwater and Vicky Southworth, and then also the St. Martin's Library already.
Oh, great. So everybody's here.
Yeah, everyone's
welcome, here. Welcome, everybody. If you could stay mute unless you're the one talking, especially if you've got a couple of dogs like mine who might interrupt the meeting. Is there any other reminders I have to make? There's none, I don't think. I'll ask the board to introduce themselves, starting with you, Lee.
Muted.
Morena, Lee Sampson, I'm the Deputy Chair and I'm based in Kashmere.
Mel.
Morena, Melanie Coker, Councillor for Spreydon.
Tim.
Good morning, I'm Tim Scandred, I'm the Councillor for Cashmere.
Is there anybody else? Is Kia or Callum?
Kia has joined as well, and Callum is just joining now.
Great. Kia, can you introduce yourself?
Morena, Kia Leslie, Community Board Member elected from Cashmere.
My gosh, I can't get over it. He looks so suave. Callum?
Kia ora, my name's Callum Ward. I'm the elected member from Spreydon.
And Atamarie, I'm Carolyn Potter. I'm the chairperson for the board. Are there any apologies? Oh no, staff. So sorry. Starting with you, Amy.
Hi, I'm Amy Hart, the Community Board Advisor.
Jo.
Kia ora, I'm Jo Wells, Community Governance Manager.
Is there anybody else here, Jo?
Yes, we've got Jay and Heather as well.
Could you introduce yourselves, please, Jay and Heather?
Kia ora, JCP, Community Development Advisor for Cashmere.
Thank you, Jay.
Morena, Heather Davis, Community Development Advisor for Spreydon.
Thank you, everybody. Apologies. No apologies. Declarations of interest? No declarations of interest. Confirmation of the previous minutes. Is there a mover and a seconder, please?
I'm happy to move. Lee, happy to move, Caroline.
Thank you, Lee. Anybody else?
Tim is happy to second.
Tim seconded. Thank you, Tim. Is there any alterations or amendments? Thank you. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
All those against, carried. Public forum, and welcome to Phil Clearwater and Vicky Southworth from Environment Canterbury to talk about their annual plan. Hi, you two.
Morena, Carolyn, and committee board members. Look, I'll be brief because I'm aware there's other people speaking in the public forum, and Vicky will join me too, but it might be that I'll just recap things, and Vicky and I would answer questions, because we're aware that recently you had the combined community board forum for regarding our ECAN annual plan. So look, just you might recall, and I'll just speak to it rather than any slide presentation to give you time. You might recall we have got three main topics and issues that we are asking people to comment on. So that first one you'll probably recall is about changing the bus fare structure. And there's just basically that the options by reducing fares, in fact, though, will lead to a small rate increase, especially in Greater Christchurch. The second main issue is around flood recovery and protection. And although those massive floods in May last year really affected South Canterbury and Ashburton, clearly for the future, we are all involved. So the question really is, or the proposal is, should we have a general rate so that the costs of flood protection work should be more evenly shared? And then the third area, which is really around future, your comments and views for future funding, is around what actions should we be taking to respond to climate change, and should investing in funding and putting in a future levy, should that be part of what we need to do? So, board members, you'll see that all of those three main issues all really relate to the massive issue of climate change as an umbrella one. And although right now the pandemic's uppermost in our mind, clearly climate change is the one which we are all concerned about. I will make the comment too that it's not yet absolutely clear whether your council or city council are going to be submitting on our annual plan. However, that aside, I want to encourage you already, or any of you who have got time, to make an individual submission and come and talk to us. So, and basically, like, I know that the Spreydon-Cashmere board always have made submissions when you can, and I'm encouraged around these issues. I'm encouraged when I look at the strategic directions at the top of your agenda and that vision statement. There's some key ones which relate to our concerns, and one I see there is about developing resilience in the 21st century, and another one is meeting the challenge of climate change, and I like this piece, through every means available. So, and I know that previously your council and the board have really worked with us to give us constructive comment in relation to our plan. The only other thing I will add in relation to those issues is that around transport, I guess, while clearly some fair criticism can be made around, I guess, the pace of how we're doing things, we have in fact achieved, I think, quite a lot. And like an example of that is that over this this last year, we had planned to purchase 25 new electric buses. We've already got 10 on the road, and there's 15 to come this year. And next year we are purchasing another, I think it's 30. Vicky, correct me if I'm not quite right there. But so it's really right. One of the questions related to that is, do you want us to invest in things like public transport and flood recovery and future climate change management? So I'll now perhaps put it over to Vicky if there's anything else, Vicky, you'd like to add, but very happy to answer any questions that you as board members have.
Thank you, Phil. That was really interesting. I've got questions already, but it would be better for us to hear from Vicky first.
And I think Phil's covered all of that very clearly. Just, I suppose, putting some of the dollar values might be helpful as well. So just for a sort of typical rate value of house and the rates rise we're looking at is around $124 per year extra, so it's about another $2.50 in that sort of range. And of that, going to our option one, which is free fares for under 25s, community service card holders, mobility card holders, and tertiary students, that's about $1 a week extra for that option, including also additional improvements in our service, which we've already got incorporated into our long-term plan. So that's putting on some additional buses on particular services and the like. So we've had Route 28 and the Route 17 bus services have been looked at most recently, and also looking at funding those additional replacement EV buses, where we're retiring some of the older buses and increasing our fleet. So I think that's probably the main thing to put. And just to say as well, in terms of savings, so a family, for example, if you have 2 children traveling on the bus every day to school at the moment, you'd be spending $1,200 a year. So families with 2 children on the bus would be saving themselves about $1,150 a year. And also just to flag that if you're a gold card holder on a low income and therefore would have the community service card, you will actually have access to our buses for free all day as well. So it does benefit people across a range of ages. The under 25s, the intention behind that is really to encourage more younger people to use the bus and continue using the bus through all that sort of change of life, going from school through maybe university or maybe into apprenticeship and then into your sort of career, and to build a generation of people who actually do think about using the bus as one of their primary modes of transport. That's the intention behind that particular target group. I'll just leave it at that. Thanks.
That was really good, that elucidation. So I gather from that, because my first question was going to be which of the three preferences you prefer, and I gather from that, Vicky, that clearly you prefer option 1.
Yeah, that's the council's proposed preferred option, and that's what we put into our consultation. Yeah,
I saw that. Are there any questions people might like to get some more detail, for example, particularly if individuals choose, particularly if individuals choose to make a submission, because we can't make a submission as a board, unfortunately, and the council apparently is not making a submission. Sorry, Amy, who's first?
Oh, so Lee, Kia, and Tim have their hands up.
Okay, in that order, Leah, Lee, sorry.
You're muted, Lee.
Carol, that's the second time I've done this morning. Must be enough coffee, yeah. But thanks, Tim. As Caroline alluded, we can't make a submission because council isn't, but we do know age-friendly Spreydon-Cashmere will be making a very valuable submission, and we heard the crux of that a week ago, so it will be valuable, and the board will happily support that submission. My question is probably not related so much to the annual plan, but it is very much linked. The government's initiative this week in terms of 50% public transport for the 3 months from the start of April. I just want to seek some reassurance that you're really going to promote that, or just, that we're really going to give that a really good push and capture as much data as we can, because I think we've got a golden opportunity here to really try and up the ante with public transport and see how successful it might be. I know that's something you're both really passionate about, but just sticking, we're really going to market this and get the, really give it a good push on social media and the like. So, do you want to respond to that if you can?
Yeah. I can say I've already shared the Metro post off their Facebook page and really flagging the Metro cards, because to get your best price, it's going to be a case of needing your Metro card. And I think once people have a Metro card, then that makes them much more much cheaper to use the bus if the fares go back up again after those first 3 months. Obviously, with our proposal, we're hoping that certainly won't be the case, but yeah, I absolutely agree. The problem, of course, is we do have this wave of COVID, and so that's unfortunately coinciding with this time, and a lot of people, I think, are quite nervous about using the bus at the current time. So we'll have to take any data that we get through this a little bit carefully, be careful with it, but absolutely agree. Let's try and get our buses used as much as we can.
Phil, you were going to say something.
Lee, I think it's really great. Personally, I do that government are also prepared to invest this way in our public transport and our buses. So as Vicky said, there's a lot of obstacles at the moment. But I think one good thing we have done is we have supported the bus drivers with a living wage and improving their conditions, that kind of thing. But I think the writings on the wall and government have given us indication, especially for people who are on low incomes and have no money over.
Thank you, Phil. Kier?
Lee's stolen the bulk of my question, which was also going to be about the half-price fares. I did have one question, which is I know there's some operators, some PT operators who are going to struggle to be able to implement the half-price fares by that, just in terms of the complexity of their fare structures and things like that. They're actually going to be struggling to actually get them over the line to be able to have people actually coming on the bus and paying half of what they normally would. I guess just seeking some reassurance that ECAN is going to be in a position where people are going to be paying that half price as soon as the government subsidy kicks in, because I think it would be really disappointing for people who get on and then have a bit of a unpleasant shock if there is something. So I know that again has quite a good payment infrastructure, so just wanting to check in and see that that's going to be technically feasible.
So, Keir, our council staff haven't commented yet, but I would be confident that we will be able to implement that. Like our council weekend are right in front around the Metro card being able to be tag on, tag off. The whole Project Next we are piloting. So I think our staff and City Council staff are on top of their game around that. And so that, in fact, it immediately becomes cheaper, especially for families, as Vicky indicated. She might have a comment about that too.
Vicky, do you have a further comment?
Only just to say there was a Facebook post on the Metro Facebook page yesterday, which very much intimated that they would be ready to go from start of April. So but they'll obviously have quite a lot of work to do the next day or two. Yeah.
Tim.
Thank you very much. And look, it's great to see there's so much happening in this area. One of the things that I brought up a while ago with some people was when we were in Melbourne, the public transport within a certain area of the central city was free, so you could just hop on and hop off. I realised Melbourne's a larger city, and they kind of get more money if they can off the travelling into the central CDB. But what are your thoughts? Have you ever thought about something along those lines?
Tim, just briefly, and Vicky knows more about this than me, and I've, like good self, I've been to Melbourne a few times with having family there, and yeah, it is wonderful to have part of it free. And I guess that option though, that we're in option 1 about changing the structure, the first option there, I guess, is a good beginning to have a fare free targeted group. So yeah, it won't. I guess right now we have to, as a province, as a city, we have to invest as well in order for Waka Kotahi to recontribute. So they're not going to, rather than have it all free, I think this is a really good step to have a targeted free fare for the under 25s and the people who with total mobility issues and community service card holders. But Vicky will give you a good comment on that too, I'm sure.
Yeah, just Tim, I think possibly Axel Wilkie came to speak to your council, same as ours. Many of you might be familiar with Axel. Yeah. So he was proposing exactly this sort of like zero fare within the 4 avenues. And the problem is at the moment our ticketing system just doesn't enable that to really work. Unless it's completely based on an honesty system, which some of us might go, well, that's, let's give it a go, see what happens. But in another year, around about another year's time, we've got the national ticketing system coming in, and actually once that's in, we'll have far more opportunity to do more targeted ticketing solutions like free fares within a certain boundary of the city and that type of thing. So that's certainly, we're aware of that as an idea, and it has lots of merit, but at the moment it would be tricky to implement.
Okay.
Watch this space.
Yeah, and I know that climate change is absolutely linked with public transport. So when we have young people that are almost like a captive client of yours because they're travelling to school, they can't drive, etc., have you done many studies or approached and asked surveys, etc., on why we lose them from public transport once they leave high school? I mean,
it's a good question, Tom. Yeah, and Vicky, I'm sure she's looked very hard at those studies. Vicky.
Yeah, I'll have to remind. I can flick you through a report. I actually done. This is a heads up. Actually, if you guys haven't done any projects with the Geography 309 group at University of Canterbury, with Simon Kingham runs it every year with community. They do some great research projects. Little teams of third, fourth year geography students, and they did one looking at precisely this with the 16 and 17-year-olds, and it's a mix of things, but I think partly it's just like the freedom of having a car doesn't cost that much. Problem is that bus fare, actually, you don't have to have, if you're traveling a fairly short distance, the bus fare costs more than the petrol will, and we can park for free in a lot of our city. And it's just, there's a coolness thing, isn't there, about not being on the bus in Christchurch, which is what we're wanting to get over, and reconnect our population with public transport as being a good option for a multitude of reasons. Some of them amazingly didn't connect traveling by bus as being beneficial to the climate. They're aware of climate change, aware of impact, but didn't. And frankly, if you cycle behind the bus, it doesn't seem to have been so bad recently, but occasionally you get clouds of smoke coming out about the back of some of our buses, and you can see why people wouldn't see those as necessarily being beneficial to our environment. And so hence why I think the electric buses is a really good move, because it's really clear to see and they're comfortable rides. So and then the infrastructure. So particularly the students from out east, for example, saying that they end up standing at bus stops. It's cold, it's wet, they don't have a good shelter. There's a degree of safety concern as well. And again, I feel like if we can get more people on the buses, you have less people standing on their own at stops, less people on the bus, just 2 or 3 people on the bus. There's a feeling of safety in numbers to some extent. So I think that would help with a sense of concern around the safety aspects, unfortunately, as well. And that's something that our staff are aware of, but it's actually a fairly tricky situation to resolve. And in part, I think that's perception, and in part, I think there is a reality for some that there's some poor behaviour on buses. So there's something to work through there as well.
I think also.
Pardon? We're still asking for Wi-Fi on buses, especially for kids whose families are on lower incomes who don't have money on their phones. So
that'd be great.
Yeah.
And my final question, sorry to is who are the highest car users? Because if you link public transport with car use, and that you're really focusing on to maintain that young group, so when they leave high school, they're going to stay on the bus, hopefully, and the gold card holders, etc. But that group in the middle, so if you're in a low-income family and you've got bills, etc., they're being, or if you're a commuter and you can have a choice of whether which car you're going to drive at the other end of the spectrum. So do you know who the highest car users are by age?
That is a really good question. I know that our city has one of the highest car ownerships of the world, and there's pretty much one per man, woman and baby, which is quite astonishing.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty much everybody between the age of about 17 to the age of about 75 or more. Interesting question though. I might have to go back to that 309 geography next year. You might have just sparked my question for next year's project.
And clearly too, Tim, just from observation, the commuting in from on the motorways just is enormous, as it ends up, a lot of it on Lincoln Road, for example. So that's a whole area too. I guess we have already put in an express bus service to both Rolleston and to Rangiora. So more express bus services to solve that problem you're referring to.
Well, all credit to WIMEC. They did put in a park and ride, which was kind of talked about with Hallswell. Unfortunately, we never put it in, which I think is a real loss. But I do think we need to talk to Rolleston and work out a wee bit more kind of collegiality between the city council and Selwyn with regards to that, because that affects directly our communities when people are kind of rat running from Hallswell through our communities. So
Thank you, Tim. Thank you.
Can I just add in there what I have? I'll find the stats and figures and send it through as well. I have just remembered that one of the key issues is people are actually making a lot of quite short journeys. So that is there's a good number of trips that we can capture through cycling, walking as well. So there's a mix of different mechanisms we need to get people out of their cars.
Well, that'd be good for the board to see. Thank you, Vicky.
Thank you all very much. I would have liked to have got on to water and poisoned water, but there isn't time now.
Carolyn,
coming from Wellington, there's a very big social aspect to being on the rail and on the bus, right down to which seat you sit in, and we're a long way from that in Christchurch, which is a shame. we'd all like it if the government announced free rides for everyone for 5 years, but the rural urban divide probably doesn't allow for that. But thank you both very much. You were concise and you were very informative, and that was extremely helpful. And I'll look up today the submission deadlines and pass them around the board to see how many of us can make an individual submission. But thank you both for coming. It was great to see you too. Thank you.
Thanks, Callum. And people are welcome to email Vicky or myself for
hang on.
information. Thank you.
Can you just stay there for a minute? Apparently, Callum had his hand up and I didn't know. I can't see the hands. So, Callum, are you there?
I think Mel had her hand up as well, but
okay, Callum and Mel, it's an important issue. I don't mind. You go ahead. I'll say all my thanks all over again.
Open the can of water, if that was because I mean flood mitigation for our area has been a huge has had a huge impact for Spreydon-Cashmere with the Heathcote River, and so I mean we can definitely see the value of it in our part of town, and just wanting to understand a bit more about what flood mitigation measures look like in rural areas. Is that about protecting infrastructure or about protecting properties and residents or dredging?
It's a good question, Callum, because it's not, in terms of properties, like with the Ashburton River, for example, the whole town of Ashburton was, under severe threat. So it raises the importance of stop banks. And then when of course they're broken by floods and the water tears in, they have to be repaired, and it's expensive. And it depends to what kind of level, what sort of investment you put into strengthening them, because what we do know is that those rivers are going to flood again. So there's a whole science that, again, Vicky's more familiar with than me, but they're very expensive propositions to do that work. So in our plan, we are this time, fortunately, asking people if you think it is a good idea to borrow some funding to spread that cost out over future generations too, to pay for that flood repair and recovery stuff.
Thank you, Phil. Callum, do you have another one, or am I on to Mel?
Go for it, Mel.
Thanks, Mel.
I wasn't going to say much anyway. I was just incredibly impressed actually with what you guys have put out for consultation, and I just wanted to ask if the information on the website's really good with those household examples around buses. I was just wondering, after the 2-year trial, which it mentions, what sort of evidence, I guess, are you looking for it to continue, other than it being a political decision, of course? About the buses, I mean, the cheaper
option one.
Mel, just briefly, that I think the trial of My Way in Timaru, which government have asked for further evidence on, is an example where, in fact, it's been highly successful. Vicky will tell you the figures. So I guess it's results like that which are really encouraging, and that's a whole other, I guess, having scope or potential for those smaller joining up services like My Way. Will I guess hopefully get us over the bar, because the main thing we want too, though, is to have enough evidence that it is working so that central government also pay I guess the taxpayers' share. Just briefly too, while I think of it, the number 7 bus route coming through your ward, that's up for review in this next financial year. So it's the next cab off the rank to get that service improved, I guess, and it'll go out to consultation.
Thank you, Phil. Is there anything else? I do think we should finish it this time, because I think Vicky's gone. Quick off the bat.
I'm still here.
Oh, hello, Vicky.
Hey,
do you have something to say finally?
Only just to say that we'll be collecting data, Melanie, on bus passenger numbers. It is really tricky at the moment with it being so difficult. The COVID situation. We've lost 30% of our patronage since it started, and we've been on a slow, gradual decline in terms of per capita trips previous to that. So we've sort of got a strange starting point, and we don't know what waves of COVID are going to be really coming through over the next couple of years, but we'll certainly be collecting data. And I know that some of the bigger, like the university, for example, does a survey looking at the way their students and staff travel. So, you know, we could look at some of the data from some of these larger institutions and see how this proposal or the implementation of a fares free actually rolls out into their much more detailed data that they'll be collecting so, you know, there'll be information available to really understand what it does. So yeah, and then we can see how worthwhile it is to continue after that.
The one encouraging, I'd just say finally, Vicky, the one encouraging thing that I've seen recently is a huge number of kids riding bikes to and from Cashmere High. I think it's back to where it was in the late 80s, early 90s. I think it's back there now. And I stood outside the gate and literally more than 100, easily more than 100, 150 went in the gate at Ashgrove Terrace. And that's only Ashgrove Terrace. I think that's highly encouraging and really interesting too. Thank you both very much. There's more to say about this, and perhaps it's an example of how we should have more interaction, even right down to formal meetings together once or twice a year just to keep us up to speed. It's a bit silly that we run on parallel lines that don't meet very often. Thank you very much for coming in. I'm really grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline, and board members.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having us and happy to come anytime.
I think we're now on to St Martin's Library. Is that right, Amy?
Yeah, that's right.
Hello, Sue. Are you there?
Yes, I am. Hi.
I can't see you. Can anybody else see Sue?
Oh, how do I do that? Sorry.
You should be able to turn on your camera, but if you can't, don't worry about it.
If you can, it's on the right-hand side up the top, and it will say start video or something like that.
Oh, hang on a sec. Sorry about this, people.
It's all right.
There we go.
Miracle.
Sorry.
That's fine, isn't it? Terrible. The whole thing. I'm the one that's the worst, Sue. You can tell from my age I'm going to be the worst. Welcome to the board, Sue. I think you will have been. Have you been listening all along?
Yes, I have.
Yeah. So there's we have the members of the board and we have the staff in the office, and all of them are listening to you. And you're talking about Wi-Fi in that building.
Yes, I was. What we've got at St Martin's is a brilliant little library, great community hall. I'm being positive. And but we don't have Wi-Fi on site. Now, I actually need to be looking at trying to pull us into the 21st century, if possible. And everything we do currently is manually. All new books are entered into what I call the ledgers. We need to have it so that we are more proactive. We're being more professional in the way we're looking at doing things. And so we were gifted a laptop from council, which was great until we discovered we didn't have Wi-Fi. The other thing I was thinking was, with this, we would be able to generate our own newsletters without asking our volunteers to be doing them or for me to be doing them on our own computers. We've got a very split method at the moment of various people doing everything at home on their things rather than having a specific laptop computer at the library for us all to be able to use. I just think it would tie everything in a lot more tighter than we currently have things, but I really need to get us out of the manual stage of doing. I know, just having listened to the previous people, this is a very small thing, I think, in the major scheme of things. However, for us, it's very important. The other thing would be that I see that if we had Wi-Fi throughout the building, that there's a possibility of better usage for council on the community hall itself as to what can be offered to the public out there.
Which would make it more rentable.
Yes, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. And also you would attract more people from the community who didn't have Wi-Fi at home and who could come into a community space like the library and have conversations with you and the others, as well as the normal function of taking out a book. Yeah.
Well, it's also that chance of being able to increase our membership as well.
Yeah.
So it's a two-edged sword, probably.
Yeah. Yeah. Are there any questions from the board? Have I got
He
any?
has his hand up.
Yep, I've got
Lee.
And Tim as well.
Lee, Callum, Tim. Lee.
Oh, I think we've just actually answered my question. It was more around whether it was a localized Wi-Fi or public, public Wi-Fi. So I think public Wi-Fi is obviously the way to go. So I think that would be great, and would encourage more people there. So I think we've answered my question. So that's me. I'll hand over to the next one.
Callum.
I was just wondering if you've had any chats with TechMate, who used to be called Addington Net. They're sort of a local provider of educational stuff around technology, and sometimes they help you sort of set up the hardware, and they can run classes for older adults in terms of using devices too. So they're a really cool resource that's really sort of invested in the community to tap into as well.
Right. Excellent idea. Have you heard of TechMate?
I think Jay has mentioned them, but I figured I would speak with you people first, and just to get the ball rolling, really, and see where we could go.
It may not be TechMate that leads, but TechMate could even become involved if Wi-Fi was introduced, just for example.
Yes.
It's a really good thought of Jay's. Yeah, and good on her for remembering. I hadn't remembered. Good on you, Callum. Tim.
Thank you, and thank you, Sue, for bringing this up. It's quite amazing that council didn't facilitate this when they built the place, which is just crazy. But on that note, I guess we had really good success with Enable with regards to Huntsbury Hill, where the community there was left out of their loop, which they're now going to be included with. So I think the board, we can approach Enable, but also go to the council and say, A, that this should have been done at the start and should be the council should be putting it in, but also B, this would be a really good community investment by Enable and really good for them. So I think there are a couple of avenues that the board can follow up, which we will on your behalf, if that's okay.
That'd be great. Thank you for that.
Is anybody else would like to say anything to Sue? Oh, can I just say, Sue, it's great to see you. We've always had a strong relationship with the library in that building, and it's good to see you come before the board. And I'm just really glad to see you, and come again. Okay. And secondly, what we're going to do is ask the staff to get a response from you, and some of the board members have come up with some ideas that are helpful as well. Mm-hmm. And we will ask the staff to come back to us with a response on the issue. I think it is difficult to think why we didn't put it in the first place, because half the functions of all the public libraries involve IT, and quite rightly. So that was a lag that we will try and address. Right. And great to see you, Sue, and good luck with the library. I feel very strongly about that library and the guts that was shown by the previous leadership and the members of the volunteer group at that library to get the library going and to overcome the impediments of the earthquake and things. So we'll do our best.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming in to see us.
Right, thanks so much.
Mel's got a hand up, Carolyn.
Oh, sorry, Mel.
I was just going to suggest for our resolution to maybe what.
I'm just going to say to Sue, just hang around for another minute. Go ahead, Mel. Okay.
I was just going to say for our resolution, maybe we could extend it out, because how many other, thinking like a power library, or what other facilities even are there in our ward or across the city even, that actually should have Wi-Fi, and coming and looking at them all individually is crazy. We should just sort them all out and get it done.
Yeah,
I agree. The Community Association could be in there as well.
Yeah. Could I just comment that I think...
Sorry, go ahead, Amy.
Some of those small libraries that are run, not by the council, but that are run by the community don't actually want Wi-Fi. They've made a conscious choice to not have Wi-Fi, and at least in the past, that was the case with the Opawa Library. Yeah, just making that comment.
No, I mean, we can
to look at options that where they do want it then, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, it was a conscious choice for St Martin's Library from memory as well. But times change, and Sue's trying to angle the library into being more responsive to a wider section of the community. And I really believe in that and support it, particularly as some members of the community, including children, can't access Wi-Fi. And the more people who can offer it in the times that they're open, the better. But so, Sue, don't worry that the idea of looking around that Mel's introduced will hold you up, because it won't. But it is an interesting thought to look around and see what other buildings we could be looking at for Wi-Fi. And perhaps it is something we and the staff can do. I've still got a hand up. Is there someone I've missed? I've got a hand up on the corner of my screen.
No, I put mine up, but I'll wait to discuss the resolution.
Okay, we haven't got a formal resolution. Yeah, no. It's just an agreement that we've asked staff. Strange that I've seen the hand just then. Thank you, Sue, again, and thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Does anybody else want to say it before we move on?
Anybody else? I think there's two ways forward. One is through yourself and Joe and Amy, is to go to council and just say, hey, look, this should have been done. And I know you were right. I don't think they wanted it at the time, but things have moved on. But I'm more than happy to contact Daniel Hurd, but I think that should also be done to enable through the board as well, officially. They're doing a lot in the community, and whilst the iron is hot and they're probably sick of our voices, we may as well kind of get onto it.
Yeah, I think that we don't need a mover and a seconder. It's just an agreement. Yeah. But if the board's okay, I think we should, for St Martin's, ask for staff advice, and then perhaps through the staff put a quiet questionnaire out to our various groups to see where the holes are in terms of Wi-Fi accessibility, because I can imagine, for instance, that George V Hall, Coronation Hall, should have Wi-Fi connection, and you'd take for granted that would happen. So just let's see. So if we can just say we're asking for staff advice on St Martin's, and also asking if staff could just have a look around in their various areas to see if there's other gaps in the obvious need for Wi-Fi in our areas. Thank you.
But let's just make sure that if Enable want a kidney, it's we get that one done first.
Hey, are you right about St Huntsbury, Tim?
Yeah.
Have the top of the hill up there got it?
Yeah. Daniel rang me and said he was sick of me, so they were going to put it in. No, that they've. Yes, however happened, it did, so it was good. And I'm not sure it's in just yet, but Lee, I think it's certainly in progress, and again, they're progressing it very quickly.
Okay, I'd recommend to anyone to go to the top of Huntsbury Hill, which I went with. I went there with the funeral director, and they're looking at Judge Gardens.
What were you up there with the funeral?
Peter Lawrence.
Are you looking for a plot?
He knew where to go. He knew everywhere to go. And I couldn't believe how high up that community is. And I couldn't believe the fact that they were out of Wi-Fi. I'll talk about that a bit more later. Okay, we've done that. Deputation.
Carolyn, can I just confirm? So the requests that I have are request staff advice on whether public Wi-Fi can be installed at the St. Martin's Library, and then also request staff advice on what other community facilities in the board area do not have Wi-Fi.
Yeah. The second one I don't consider to be instantly respondable. Like, I wouldn't want the staff to go hunting around right now at the expense of any other work. but I think the board would like to know if there are any major holes. And just for example, we should be thinking about it with Coronation Hall. But the St Martin's one, I think, is a specific issue that's been raised specifically with us. I think Jay's onto it, obviously, but if we could get some staff advice on that and see if there's any action that we can take.
Yep. And just quickly as well, Tim, I expect that the Wi-Fi connection is there, so it wouldn't be necessary to go to enable. It's just that it has to, just be paid for and, connected.
Well, if we can clarify that, that'd be great.
So that can be part of the staff advice that comes back, but I don't think we need to go to enable quite.
No, I'm very sure
stage.
Daniel will be pleased not to get a call from me.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, presentation of petitions, none. So we're at the area report. So that's Joe and Amy. Or is
right. Yep, no, that's right. I can kick off, Carolyn, if you like, and then
thank you.
Feel free to jump in with any questions. Just a few things to highlight. As you're aware, the Community and Youth Service Awards open from the 11th of March till the 14th of April. So that will be promoted as much as possible for people to get their nominations in. This year's Strengthening Communities Fund will open on Monday the 21st of March, and that will close on Tuesday the 26th of April. And as you're aware, the draft annual plan was adopted on the 24th of February and consultation has opened, and Amy will talk a little bit more about that. So I'll hand over now to Amy.
Oh, yeah. So just on the topic of the annual plan, as Joe just mentioned, that's out for consultation right now. So if today you wanted to formally decide to make a submission on the council's annual plan, then you can have some time next week to actually draft that and put together what you'd like to say.
Oh, I think
just to clarify on that, Melanie and I, because we're going to be sitting on it, we can't take part in that because I don't think we have in the past. Is that right? Or we meant to step away from the table, I think.
Yeah, it would be best if you didn't, move or second or participate in voting on the decision to make a submission. Yeah, just to make it keep it really clean.
Sorry, Mel.
I don't think that has been a rigid issue in the past, but I think the advice that Amy's just given you is wise. But I don't know that it would preclude you from entering the discussion from the point of expertise or anything.
No, so, just clear. Yeah, you're right. So we've been involved in the discussion, but we've sat away from the table when there'd been any votes or whatever.
Yeah. But I do think we should submit on the annual plan. I think people have got their priorities particularly in terms of traffic issues that have been raised, for instance, by Lee and Callum, Lee and Keir, as well as the Mel and Tim. So I think that we should put in a submission on the annual plan. Does anybody think we should not? Okay, so if we can go ahead with that, Amy, that would be great.
Yeah, and that's it from me. And then I think Jay had a couple of comments to make as well.
Good, Jay. Hello, Jay.
Morena. Just a couple of comments about the 2021 Strengthening Communities Fund Accountability Reports, which are attached to the report. Just noting that the multi-year funded groups are required to put in a 6-month progress report before getting their next payment, whereas the 1-year funded groups put in a 12-month report on their achievements. And
is that new?
It started, I think it was last year.
Yeah.
So that's the way it's done to enable more efficient rollout of the further payments on those multi-year funded groups. And of course, we catch up with them through the year as well. And just to say that there were no outstanding accountabilities. They're quite full because we're not pre-seeing the reports. So they're more as provided by each of the groups.
Yeah, I had a look through them. So, but before I comment, does anybody else want to comment on the attached pages that had the reports from the various organisations in our ward? Is there anybody putting their hand up? I thought some of the interesting things was I loved the Arabic lessons. I'm very glad the bike repairs are still going. The girls skateboarding starting at Addington School, and the reason why it started with that young kid being stressed going into school and not feeling welcome and things. I think that goes to show that loneliness can be alleviated by having an activity that you want to go to. I love the fact that there's hip hop classes and hip hop sessions. West Spreydon School's preschool running classes. I'll have to go along there one day, just watch them running around. I think good on them. And the woman going to the Arabic classes as well. The one thing I wanted to question though was that Manuka Cottage, for instance, submitted on the number of visits that they had, whereas I'd be interested to see the number of individuals that attended. In other words, are their numbers increasing day by day? And I understand during COVID that this is pretty tricky. Or is it the same people turning up to do the same things, card games and cups of tea and all of that sort of thing, day in, day out? And it adds up to 196 at the end of a term or something like that. And that's what it seems like, that it's the same people rolling up every time and there's no change. And I just wondered if there was any detail of any increase in visitations. I should never say that word. And if there are different people coming. Could you comment on that, Jane?
Well, possibly that's in Heather's patch. So Heather might have a comment on that one.
Sorry, Heather. I get a bit lost about who's got which patch.
I can't answer that question for you at the moment. I will just go back and ask Monica Cottage if that information is available.
Okay. Is there anything else that people would like to comment on those kinds of reports? I know it's a little bit different from how it used to be, and I think it's quite productive. The reports from South West Baptist Church and their various activities, especially associated with schools, are very wide. And Project Esther had something interesting in it as well. When I saw the comments about a woman being able to get to ARA because Project Esther gave her an iPad to help her be able to do those kinds of things in order to be able to go to ARA. I thought that was great as well. No other comments? Is there any other comment broadly on the reports from staff? Okay, Joe and Amy, have you got anything else to add?
No, that's all.
I don't have anything either, but Kia has just put his hand up, and Melanie.
Okay, Melanie. Kia first. Thank you.
This is maybe just a bit of an update question, really, which is just around everyone's favourite issue of Hunter Terrace and the reserve issue there. Do you have, is there a kind of time frame about when we can get that one moving? I think we were looking at whether we would have to look at a reserve reclassification process. Is that kind of in the pipeline, and what sort of timeframes are we looking at?
So in terms of the process, Angus is going to be looking to get a request for proposals out later this month. So he is going to confirm exact timeframes, but the latest update that we had was that later in March, he will aim to get a request for proposals out. And that will be for the grass area. And that would be all that's necessary for somebody to operate there. So that's the current plan, and yeah.
So where are we thinking that we would have to go through a reserve reclassification for the process in terms of changing that from the current paved area from road reserve to, or so esplanade to recreation? Is that still expected to have to happen, or are we thinking that's not necessary at the moment?
Yeah, that's right. Yep. So the advice is that it's not necessary at the moment, that they should be able to operate as they are, and then assess it as it goes. And if it's deemed necessary in the future, then that could be done. But I guess because there is the landscaping project that's going to come through on Hunter Terrace, there is a potential that there could be a hard surface incorporated into that project in the future. So it's kind of a watch and wait, and there's potential opportunities as that project is implemented. So at this stage, the advice is that there's no land reclassification needed, and that the request for proposal can go out, which starts the process. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
That's okay.
That's a positively ballistic speed in my experience of council activity. And thank goodness for Angus charging along. Just before I forget, Amy or Joe, could we ask Simon Kingham if he could come and talk to us about that 16 and 17-year-old use of public transport? Would that be?
Yep.
Would that be? Vicky mentioned it, and I just thought I'd like to be up to speed on this issue.
Yep.
And I know he may think that we're a waste of time and he doesn't want to come, but I thought if we could just express an interest and see if he would be interested in coming along and telling us, because this is exactly the age group at Hill Morton and Cashmere High, and I'd be interested to know.
Yeah, we can ask him.
Thank you.
Mel had a hand up as well.
Mel, I'm so sorry, Mel.
And I did as well. So
okay, Kim. Mel, go ahead.
I'm looking at the memo after the report from all the funding. Can I comment on that now?
Yeah, that's what we're doing. Yeah.
Okay. So I just there was two things from that. I was wondering if the resident who had asked all those questions had given any feedback after they were made aware of the response.
I need to go back through my email. I think they may have just come back and said, thank you very much. That's great that some action, some of the issues that they raised are going to have some action taken on them.
Sorry, Mel and Amy, to what are you referring?
It's the memo about various transport issues on Sparks Road and Hoonhay.
Oh, yes. Yep.
From someone down Rawlings Lane.
Yeah.
And the other one is that it mentions about putting forward for funding for the next financial year for a pedestrian island near Rose Street on Hoonhay Road, which it is very busy. So I think that's really good. And I guess it would be good if, I probably shouldn't say this, but I wonder if this is something the board should be putting in its submission actually to the annual plan. I don't know if that's how that process works, but it might not be a bad thing to do for us to.
An individual, because the board can't, can it? That's what they said.
No, the board to our annual plan, to the councils. Oh. Yeah.
Yeah, it's exactly what we can do.
I only realised it as I was saying it just then, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, I'm just glad that that's been identified, and I think there's other areas over time because Carolyn, when we went to look at the Smartley Street Bridge, that crossing point between near Lewis is a similar one with the bus stop. But I still think once that cycleway becomes more popular, once it's connected right through properly down NX Road, I think that may eventually warrant something, but we'll see.
I think that issue of Rose Street and a traffic island and the shops there make that quite a conflict. And I'd be interested in a staff comment on the safety of that area and young people in particular, but anybody crossing the road there. You're dead right. It's a popular place to cross. there's those three things, the dairy and the Chinese takeaway right there. And I see several little bits of conflict there when I go to that dairy, which I do once a week to pick up the Sunday Times, which he keeps for me almost. And there's quite a lot of conflict there. And I'm just wondering if the staff have looked at that. Can we ask the staff about that particular intersection and just
that's in the report. That's what's in the report.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, yes. And I think you're right. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, go ahead, Tim.
Just two things quick on that one is, and where would be the best place for it? Hillside of Rose Street or the Hay side of Rose Street, because that's I wouldn't, I've been there, we all know it very well, and it's getting busier, and to watch some of those kids getting across that road, whether it's the hillside or the city side of Rose Street on Hoon Hay, it makes your heart jump a bit. So that would, I think, for me, I don't think there's a question whether there should be one there, but where there's the best place to have it. Because if it's, because if you don't have it on one side, they've got to get across Rose Street, which is just as bad. So that, I think, is the important question for me. But just going back to what Keir brought up with regards to the changing reserve from Esplanade, if required, from Esplanade to recreation, if there is a requirement, could we just make sure Angus is looking at the whole area? So right from the pump track, from all the land that we own there. So when we do it right, and it's just done once. Because we don't know what we, as a board, what the future holds for that area. Hopefully a whole lot of things for us, but let's just do it right once.
Yeah.
Cool.
We'll just check in with Angus.
We're lucky to have Angus. He's there.
Yeah, it might be disrespectful to ask him too much. Have you got this under control, Angus? Yeah.
No, that sounds good. And he's also briefing the board on the 11th of April to give an update. So we will pass that on, but also that will be a good time to discuss that with them.
Okay. Okay.
And
are there
Carolyn,
any other questions? Yeah, sorry.
Just going back to Mel, your question about whether those residents had any feedback, they did come back and say that they do still think that there needs to be a right turn arrow, I think is what they'd asked for, at the Sparks Hoon Hay intersection, especially with the growing number of new subdivisions, but they were happy that there was progress in other areas. So I just suggested that they keep an eye on the situation, and if they notice that the traffic safety issues are worsening at that location, then to get back in touch.
That would be.
Thanks, Amy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That'd be interesting. Okay, if we've finished with the staff report, we're into members exchange. Are we okay? Oh, mover and seconder.
Yep.
Can I have a mover and a seconder on receiving the area report?
And also making a submission on the annual plan. You wanted to add that in? Yeah.
Please. Yeah.
I'll move those.
Keir moved, seconder?
Yep, I'll second.
Thank you, Callum. Great minds think alike. Any other questions? All those in favour, please say aye. Against, abstentions carried. Thank you. Okay, elected members information exchange, and Callum, you're on my screen. You go ahead.
So we're just double checking that we're all. Is this being live streamed still?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Cool. I've just had some questions from a resident around CCL contracts we've had with some of our IT providers. So I've told them that basically that they're unlikely to get commercial contracts through the WOMA because it's commercially sensitive. But I suppose we have to handle that request properly. So I'll pass that information on to you, Amy. But also just a legal clarification. Obviously, all council activities and services are covered by the WOMA. Is that true for CCHL organisations as well?
CCHL is a publicly owned company, and it is subject to LCOIMA as well.
Yeah.
I think
however,
it'd be the commercial, commercial aspect of it. You could still get information. It'd just be the commercial.
It'd be redacted,
element of
yeah. So
would
you
be
could get
withheld.
like the documents, and there'd be lines through them where the commercial sensitivity is. But yeah, absolutely. But I think to get to CCHL, I think the first one for us or the board or yourself would be get to Amy or Joe, whatever, to go through the office of the CE. So it's through the LCOIMA team there, and that's what I would suggest you do. That would be the best way forward. But Joe and Amy may have a different view on that, or better view, I should say.
No, just, yeah, if you want to email that through to me offline, Callum, then we can look into that.
While I'm thinking about something like that, Amy, and before I forget, could you contact Enable to get a formal reply as to the Huntsbury issue? Because we raised that as board, and I think they should be writing back to us to let us know.
Yeah, no, I have actually gotten in touch with Daniel, and he just confirmed what Tim had said, but he is in the process of writing something more formally that then I can give you and can, you could put in your newsletter, etc.
Exactly.
Yeah. I did actually ask him to do that. So yeah.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
Thanks. Okay. Anything else, Callum?
No, that's all from me.
Thank you. Kier.
Pardon me. Sorry, my internet connection cut out just at that moment. What did I have? I just wanted to say that I've seen some really positive comments on the upgraded paths in Summerfield Park on the Summerfield Residents Association Facebook page. So I just thought it was good to share that there's I guess some people out there who are really pleased to see that, and some nice comments about, I guess, kids using that to get to school and things like that, which is I suppose some of the stuff that makes you feel good about coming to work and getting some stuff done for the community, really. So that was I guess a nice, I don't know, just wanted to share that with the board in terms of a nice some nice feedback on some stuff that we've been asking for. Yeah, no, that was it from me this week.
Mel.
Yeah, it feels like not a lot has been happening. I thought I would draw your attention for the annual plan to pages 14, 15 and 16, if there's anything you might like to make comments on with those in the consultation document.
Tell us what it is.
Oh, I can't remember now. I need to look at it. Where am I? It was just around, we were going to be increasing children's entrance fees and swimming lesson charges, but council decided not to do that. So that was good. And obviously there's the stuff about not charging library members for overdue items, which everybody loves. There's lots of stories there, including Kia's one. There a differential rate for vacant central city land to encourage owners of vacant central city sites to tidy them up, basically, or to come up with there's various ways of doing that. So that they would basically be charged while it looks untidy, and then charge more while it looks untidy, and then charge the usual rate once it looks tidy.
Is that central city only, or elsewhere as well?
Currently only central city, though. There's discussions about that being extended depending on the success of that. I think they just want to make sure that that kind of works first before extending it out. But there's definitely some councillors that have talked about that a lot, and there's areas obviously we can think of. They're probably the main things I can think of.
Do you want to talk about Smartly?
That was for the annual plan. You talk about Smartly. There was the Lincoln Road bus hearings, and the panel's getting its report together. It's pretty much finalised, really. So that will be going to council to have the bus lane straight through, and we made lots of different small recommendations, taking in people's feedback along the route. So once it comes out officially, you can have a look at it. But I think it'll be quite exciting, because once that whole stretch from Hallsville all the way through to Morehouse Ave has got bus lanes in there, plus cheaper fares and all the things that are going on with buses at the moment, and electric buses. I mean, buses are going to be a brilliant way to get into town, at least from the Hallsville area, although they need to look at further routes in the Hallsville to pick up more people around there. But I think it's actually very exciting. And then the other thing is just about, I think I mentioned last time, the Addington Neighbourhood Association were going to give some money to a community project. And they did decide to give $300 to Addington School, and they were wanting to have a particular project to give to the school. It was a big part of their discussion, and they're going to give it to a garden in that school. So I think that's really great, and maybe, I don't know, I wasn't there for the discussion, but maybe reflects Christine Lance maybe in there, but I think that's a really good project to be supporting. So I good on the Addington Neighbourhood Association for doing that. And that was it.
Thank you. Whatever your name is, Mel. Thank you, Mel. Tim?
Thank you. Just a couple of things. First off, I got approached by the owners of the Masonic Lodge, the Cashmere Masonic Lodge on the corner of Dyers Pass and Heathcote. They put in a wee kind of step area for the public to use on their land, and it's kind of their land, our land, and a wee bit of Orion's land. And they contacted me to say, look, it's okay, and it's kind of a bit dodgy anyway during summer, because they see mums with prams who don't want to use the road, which is totally understandable. But they said, and Gavin is absolutely on board with this at the school, they want to put something a bit more user-friendly for all. So they're wondering if the council can come in and assist them, because they're spending a lot of money on the building, and they've got a business there, but there's a limit to anybody's string. So what I'll get, Amy said that maybe they should approach the board, obviously, officially, and we'll go from there. So that's really good news. But they just want to do it as a team with the council, and I'm sure Orion wouldn't mind us going onto their land. So, but that can all be done through the board. So that sounds okay. I got approached by some people with regards to Ernie Clark Reserve, and they were concerned that there were 7 sycamores being removed because they were dead, but they'd been poisoned. So it'd be really good to get feedback from Jonathan. I talked to Amy about this, so that will be coming back to us about had they been, first of all, poisoned. The second issue they have.
Where is this again? Sorry, Tim.
Ernie Clark Reserve.
Oh no, I don't know if they've been poisoned, but sycamores were a weed.
These are large trees. So and I know the sycamores are self-seeding, but any large tree is a good thing for the environment. It may not be good for how they throw off all their seedlings, etc. But the question was asked, and I think it should be answered. So I'm just trying to get the facts, because if people are going around saying things have been poisoned or they haven't been or whatever, I just want to get the facts. Yeah. So that's what I've asked for. But the secondary question was that elderly, and they walk through the Ernie Clark, and there are nice green spaces there along that wee creek that they sit in. And the natives that have been planted are now overgrowing the seats, so they can't get to them. So can we just look at the maintenance of that? And the other one is there's some amazing cabbage trees in there, as we all know, and some of the native planting, overgrowing certainly one of the cabbage trees, which are listed as significant trees. So I wonder if we could just get from Jonathan a bit of an update on those. That's all. And the vacant sites, we've been pushing with regards to getting outside of the central city, because as we know, Beckenham, like there's that wee community garden next to Harding's Chemist, which was great, but the other sites there have been left. And although I wouldn't ever want to, some of these sites were owned by family trusts, they're not developers, and some of them aren't rich, So, but I do think that if you own land, you have a responsibility. So I think, and look how long it's taken to get things happening in Selwyn Street, for instance. So I do think, as a board, we should certainly say, we would like that taken out into the community activity areas, because, I think the communities deserve that. And that's my lot.
That community garden next door to the chemist was Christine Blance's as well. She did a good job there.
Well, I talked to Ian, who owns, or his family owns the land. They were over the moon that someone wanted to do something like that there. That's great.
The 2 seats, I know what you're talking about, Tim. It may be that the seat should be moved, closer, because the one at the back, near and is not near the waterway. And
no, they're not. No,
and it might be a little bit closer. Would they get a better view?
Well, they're quite happy with it. All they're saying is that there's overgrowth at the seat. So if you're going to, just cut it back or whatever, so they've got access to the seats. Or everybody's got access to them. Anyway.
So sorry, just to clarify that one. I can't remember from walking through in the Clark. Are there more than 2 seats in there? So it's 2 specific seats out of many.
The ones the one they were talking about was in the green area next to the creek, not the river.
Yeah.
So that's the one they were specifically talking to, but they're saying that they need to have a rest, and it'd be a shame if they couldn't. So if we
it's where the swans are.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So when the swans are there, you can't get the seat anyway.
No, you
can't. So that probably sounds more like just a snaps and solve request for service type thing. Would you want to put that in, Tim?
Well, could it be from the board? Because Ernley Clark is a sensitive area, or a popular area, very full of interests. But if we are going to do things there, we've got to have a holistic look at it. So we've got to make sure that those seats are accessible, and that's just a maintenance, I suppose. But we just got to have thought about that.
So are you wanting that to? Are you wanting that to be a formal action coming out of this meeting?
Yeah, because I think that will kind of highlight the ongoing upkeep required, and I think that's a good thing to keep in the forefront of Parks Unit.
Well, there's another seat in the Dell which is being surrounded by bush a bit as well, just because plants are growing. That could come out a bit because there's so much room there for a seat that the one in the big Dell, could come out a bit.
But it's cheaper to just, do a bit of trimming than actually move a whole seat. So I just think just do a bit of trimming. But I mean, it's just excess. That's that's all I'm asking. Well, that brought up.
Okay. Yep. So Carolyn, did you want to just check with the board if everyone's happy for that to be?
Yeah. Is everyone happy for that to be raised? Because of course it's probably going to be. I think the staff will probably even hand their request to the Ernley group, because they are the only ones that do any work in the Ernley. So it's not even a question of asking staff in a way. It's
process, isn't it? It's good.
Yeah.
The parks need to be aware
because Ernley do all the work in there, or the Ernley volunteers do all the work in there.
Yeah. No, that's fine. We can put that in. And in terms of the trees that are being removed, that's just a request for information. So that doesn't need to be a formal action. Yeah.
I do presume with those 7 sycamores being removed, that there'll be 14 trees planned to be put in there. And so if so, following, so is it, because I mean, if they were going to put 14 sycamores there, that's just absolutely ridiculous, because we've got a million bloody baby sycamores that people are trying to get out of. So could we request that the board has some say in the trees that are going to, 14 trees going along council lines that will be replacing the 7, and therefore we can talk with the Ernley Clark or whatever it is, so that it would just be painful if we went in and put in 14 sycamores. It'd just be beyond stupidity. So
I can't
it's a policy. Look at the road reserve.
I know.
Just
thinking of how mad it all is. I can't believe.
But that's a heads up anyway. So
I can ask that question as well. Yep.
Poison. I can't believe
just that was rumoured. I don't know if it is. That's why I'm asked. I've just been asked to ask that.
Yeah, because I can't believe anybody would use poison in Ernley. But anyway, yeah. Mel and I went to, have I asked everybody? There's nobody missing?
Just me, Caroline.
Lee, sorry, Lee.
You can go first, Caroline. I can either or.
Yeah, you go ahead.
Okay. I haven't got a lot today. Just a bit of a heads up. I'm going to the Port Hills Trust meeting later on today, so I can report back after that. It's an outdoor meeting, obviously social isolation with COVID. So I'm hoping it's going to brighten up and warm up a little bit. So that's at 4:30 today. So I look forward to reporting back after that.
Lee, could I just comment on that? When I read the minutes, I was just really impressed, and it was partly Amy's writing as well. But I was really impressed with his presentation. Could you just say to him, he made the most reasonable request of the board, having done everything that they could themselves as well. And I thought it was a really good presentation. When I read the minutes, I was really impressed. I thought that was one of the better presentations we've had from a member of the community this year.
I'll convey that to the board tonight, and I said myself to Alan as well. It was an excellent presentation, so I'll convey that from you today, Caroline. No problems at all. Mel just jogged my memory on another thing when she touched on swimming lessons or swimming pools. Maybe I've got a conflict here, I'm not sure, but my better half goes to the women's only swimming lessons the women's only times at Linwood. I know they've been oversubscribed, which is fantastic. I know staff are probably already looking at this, but I just want to, if staff can ask the question of Nigel Cox, if this is going to be rolled out more, say, Pioneer and other swimming pools, because it's been so successful, to have those women only inclusive times. It seems to be really, from what I hear, it's fun, it's collegial, so they're just really good sessions. So if we can just find out if there's more happening in that space, I think that'd be great.
Pioneer used to do it before Linwood was built, and I'm not sure if Pioneer has kept on or if it's all been handed to Linwood.
I'm not sure either. So if we could ask for just an update, that would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Can I talk to you afterwards about this, Lee, just for 1 minute, you and me on the phone even? Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I got a call from a Dave McElwraith who rides a horizontal bike because he had a very serious accident on a bike a few years ago, and the horizontal bike is what he can do now. He has not let any of his disability stop him. He's re-registered as an electrician and he's back at work. And I really liked him. He was strong, stroppy. He said he rang me up and asked me about the Smartly Bridge, which is a old-fashioned walking only little rickety old bridge, but which now has a very serious function because it connects cycleways, the cyclists between Hoonhay and Spreydon. And I went with Mel because I'd completely forgotten about this little bridge, which is now a very big cycleway connector. And I went with Mel because I did. It was her side of the bridge, etc. And Mel and I went along, and it's very difficult for a horizontal cyclist and one of his best friends is 80-year-old cyclist to be able to get on the bridge, which has got a very awkward couple of turns. So I did a request for service and asked staff to consider how they could make the little tiny bridge more accessible, because it must be on the long-term plan and to make that bridge a big one, because it connects to the cycleway in Spreydon that takes people to the university. So I'm hoping that we can get something done there so that people can get on that little bridge. While Mel and I were there, we saw, 3 or 4 cyclists. And when we told one of them that we were trying to make it disability accessible, he said, "Oh, do you need to?" I said, "When you get run over by a bus, you'll find out." She did. A woman rang me the removal of, she wants 2 car parks on Domain Terrace removed. I don't think that's going to happen at all. She's up the other end where the car parks are in the middle of the road in a weird sort of way that's like Strickland. But that means that the traffic engineers considered the need for the car parks and that the locals had specifically asked for the car parks. So I don't think she's going to get a very good response on that. I rang her back but haven't had a reply. There was another one that I wanted to say. Huntsbury. Oh, I've asked about that. Westmoreland wrote to me. The chair of Westmoreland wrote to me and asked me to meet him to discuss what happens when Westmoreland becomes part of the board. And obviously very positive. I've written back to him saying that I could meet him on Thursday or something, and I've included you in that, Lee. And we'll pass on to the board what happens at that meeting. It's obviously very preliminary because next year there'll be 2 people elected from that area. This year, I mean. I can't think of anything else. Does anybody else want to say anything? Okay, are we near the end? Okay, no final thoughts? Okay, short meeting. Lee.
Okay. Kia tau tō rangi Maria, ke runga e ngā iwi o te ao. Hopefully that was Let Peace Reign on the people of the world, poignant with yesterday and also with our friends in the Ukraine as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Lee. Okay. Do you want to stay on, Lee, or can we have a phone? Do you want a phone call? Which would you rather?
I'll give you a call.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thank you very much, Amy and Joe, and the rest of the staff. Thank you all.
Thanks. Bye.
Good day. See
Bye.
you. Bye.